I'm Tim Janisewski, and welcome to Spotlight Matthew for today. In our last devotional study, we saw that Jesus was training the 12. There was conflict with the religious leaders once again, and Jesus was telling his disciples to beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, by which he meant their teaching, their false teaching that would lead people astray. And the disciples are being quite a bit thick at this time because they had forgotten to bring bread aboard their boat, and they think Jesus is upset about that failure. And somehow they're totally missing that Jesus was able to feed the 5,000 and women and children with 5 fish and 2 loaves, and then feed the 4,000 plus women and children with 7 loaves and a few small fish. And so Jesus is frustrated, saying, don't you get it? You don't seem to be picking up what I have been laying down, even though we've been together so long in this ministry at this point. And so we turn now to chapter 16, verses 13 through 20, which is one of the most momentous conversations in all of church history, in all of history, period. What is said in these few verses and how it has been interpreted through the ages has literally changed the face of the earth and the course of history. And we might indeed entitle this, They Do Get It, or at least they're starting to get it. So let's pick up with verse 13. Now, when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, Who do people say that the Son of Man is? And they replied, Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. And Jesus said to them, But who do you say that I am? And Simon Peter replied, You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered him, Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom, and whatever you bind on earth shall have been bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall have been loosed in heaven. And then he strictly charged the disciples to tell no one that he was the Christ. Well, of course, this is a very simple conversation for us to pick up. Jesus has gone about 25 miles north of the Sea of Galilee into Gentile territory once more for a retreat with the disciples, and they have a time of training. And Jesus says to them, What's out there among the crowds? What are you hearing from people as to my identity? And of course they reply, well, some people think that you come in the spirit of the prophet Elijah. Some think that you're John the Baptist, somehow resurrected from the dead again. Still others would say maybe you're Jeremiah or another one of the prophets. And Jesus quickly sets that aside and gets to the nub of the training session. He says, but who do you say that I am? That key question, who do you say that I am? It's the focus of our faith and our theology. Who is Jesus? Who do we say that he is? Have we understood, as Matthew is trying to reveal to us as a theologian, who Jesus is and what Jesus has come to do? And Peter responds, perhaps representing the thoughts of the other disciples as well, when he says, You are the Messiah, you are the Christ, you are the anointed one, you are the Son of the living God. And at this moment, there is a huge breakthrough. As thick-headed as they were in our last study, devotional study, now there's a breakthrough. And Jesus, I can only imagine, with emphasis and elation says, Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood, human beings has not revealed this to you. Your own intellect hasn't come up with this, but that was revealed to you by my Father who is in heaven. And Peter, I shall call you a rock, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Now, what makes this so momentous is Jesus saying to Peter that you are a rock. You are Cephas, you are a rock. You are Peter. And again, and upon this I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against this rock. Now, what is the rock? That has been the conundrum for long ages. And the Roman Catholic Church historically, of course, has said the rock is Peter. And that Peter passed along this commission and authorization from Jesus to his successors, who then passed it to further successors until these successors were finally given the name of Pope. And the Pope to this very day is the successor of Peter through the authority given to Peter by Jesus at this moment. If you will, there is what is called apostolic succession, when apostolic hands are placed on apostolic heads to confer this authority that ostensibly was given to Peter and all of Peter's successors throughout time. And therefore, it's no mistake that in Vatican City there in Rome, the home of the Pope is called what? It is called St. Peter's, to show and indicate the belief in this line and lineage that has come from Peter all the way down to the popes of our current generations. But, of course, on the other hand, the Protestant movement, people like Martin Luther and John Calvin, Huldrych Zwingli, and the Protestant church ever since has disagreed. They've said, no, 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 the rock is not Peter. The rock is Peter's confession. The rock has to be that Jesus is the Messiah and the anointed one of God. The rock is that Jesus is the Son of God and God the Son, the second person of the Trinity. It's upon the confession made by Peter that Jesus would build his church. And not just this confession, but the confession, if you will, of the apostles in what we call the New Testament today. It's the apostolic record of Matthew through the book of Revelation that is the foundation upon which Jesus builds his church. So, if you will, Roman Catholics believe in apostolic succession by ecclesiastical hands on ecclesiastical heads, but Protestants believe in apostolic succession through the teaching of the apostles in the New Testament to all generations. And indeed, a good Protestant would say, popes have failed. The apostles failed. In fact, indeed, we turn to our very next study session, and we'll find that Peter himself turns and fails almost immediately. So how can one say that there is some apostolic succession upon which Jesus has built his church? And I think that is a valid concern. And actually, there's nothing in this passage that indicates that apostolic succession must follow out of what Jesus said to Peter at this moment. So I am a Protestant. I do think it's more faithful to believe in the apostolic succession of teaching instead of people. But nevertheless, I don't want to throw that totally under the bus. Because if you were to say, what builds the Church of Jesus Christ most effectively, I would say two things. It's fidelity to the apostolic teaching, to be sure, as it is found inscripturated in the 27 books of the New Testament. That never fails us. It is true, it is faithful, it is infallible, it is inerrant, and we can stand upon that teaching. But secondly, the church is built upon great leadership. It doesn't have to be apostolic succession leadership, but wherever the church has found humble, committed, faithful, sacrificial, loving leaders, the church has thrived. And the church is built upon the succession of humble leadership that follows Jesus Christ in making disciples and winning the world for Christ. That is, in my mind, the apostolic succession we need to think about, as opposed to some formal succession of passing on authority through the papal system. But still, without great leadership committed to Christ, the church flounders and fails. So in that sense of the word, we do need the apostolic teaching, and we do need the apostolic gift of leadership over the church in our time and our day. So I think that that's a good lens for us to look at this incredible piece of teaching from Scripture, and it is a way forward in which the Church of Christ can thrive as salt and light in the world today. Thanks for listening. Check us out on spotlightgoodnews.com, and we will talk to you next time.